It's been 1,000 years since the Celestial War, and the great races were rendered extinct. 1,000 years since the establishment of the Decladine Empire, and peace came over Pylus. But an ancient secret that promises of untold power has broken the alliance and threatens to destroy the realm. Join our heroes, Tash.
Grab Daryl, get out. I will follow you. Go.
Silverpaw.
You'll pay for this, Sylvia.
Crag.
Someone is looking for you. The name Tash mean anything to you?
And Bagger.
Let's get dangerous.
As they uncover dangerous secrets, ancient cities, and race against time and the Empire itself to save Pylus. Download The Stranger Lands now, before it's too late.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what? I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people.
Right.
You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one too.
Quarter pounder with cheese and France, Mickey? What? Royale with cheese, Mickey. Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And JD.
You're waiting for John, aren't you, JD?
I was. I did not know John was not on the call.
No, John actually is bowing out tonight because he's having a severe allergy attack. Said he's going to take a Benadryl and wash it down with some NyQuil.
I don't blame him. I just got attacked by some carpenter bees. It was a war to settle the score. So the spring ailments are out in full effect.
Yes, they are. But in his place, we have a very special guest with us this week. He is the creative mind behind the independent comic Playground. And
that's right.
And that is Adam Rose. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. So, real quick, just to get started here, for those listening, can you give us like the elevator pitch of Playground?
Oh yeah, I've got that down and polished. It's Playground, Attack of the Gurglebots. It's an all ages comic, and the premise is this kid who moves to a new school. He's in the back organic garden and he eats the wrong broccoli, or maybe the right broccoli, depending on how your thoughts on that are. And he ends up with the abilities of the playground. In other words, any childhood game he plays is real. Freeze tag, he can freeze you. Simon Says, you are compelled to do what he wants. TV tag, if he says the name of a show, he becomes a character from that show temporarily.
That sounds very dangerous.
Well, then he has his backup team, the Hobby Squad, and that's a bunch of kids with old school hobbies that are kind of powered up. Like Stickers is a girl who has a sticker collection, and anytime she touches any sticker in her sticker book, it appears and attacks whoever she needs it to, or helps whoever she needs it to.
Or helps. There you go.
So I mean, it's all about getting kids, like, I don't know, just here we are in 2018,
mm-hmm.
and I feel like, you look around and kids are just, their noses are in screens. Like, unlike, when back in my day, like, I didn't have my first cell phone till I was 25, and I feel like any way to like kind of remind them and their parents about the big, wide outdoor world and old school kind of activities. That's where this came from.
So if he has those powers, and if he played Ring Around the Rosie, could he spread the plague?
That is, we haven't, that hasn't been a power that's come up yet. He's, in this first little trade paperback, he's just discovering everything. So
this is why I write horror books.
That could be the darker one, kind of like Archie in the zombie situation right now. That could come later. But yeah, he does have to deal with Principal Strict, the principal of his school, who gives ice cream headaches and can manipulate candy to do his bidding.
That could be fun. So, you know what, though, talking about how kids have their faces in screens, it's so funny because, like my son just turned 16, but had wanted a cell phone for years, and we waited till he was 13 before we actually got him one. Because before that, we were like, "What do you need a cell phone for? You're always with us, or you're somewhere where you have access to a phone." He just wanted it because everyone else had one.
Sure.
The contrast to that is my niece. Her daughter just turned 3, and they bought her a cell phone.
Yeah, see, 13, I get it. It's inevitable. I mean, I don't want to sound judgy, but 3 just seems a little, little early.
Go right ahead. Yeah, we don't understand it either. The most shocking defense came from my mother-in-law. Her grandmother. Saying, well, I saw on TV that Ice-T was talking about how he was giving his kids cell phones because that's just the world that they live in. So I understand.
Sure, I've heard of the Ice-T defense.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right up there with the Kanye argument, but that's a whole other show.
So yeah, I think it's, we need to encourage our kids to go outside again and play. I totally agree with the premise. So I kind of need to ask, where'd the inspiration come from? Are you a father yourself, or?
Yeah. I have a son, who's 8.5 and a daughter who's 5 in a week. Actually, the character for this came, if you want, like, I'll give you, there's a bit of a heartstring element to this story. Is 10 years ago now, I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I was in chemo and just going through all that. And this is before my son was even a twinkle in my eye. But I don't know. I was just getting very nostalgic for childhood and just got married. And then all of a sudden this idea popped into my head, and it just, it took a little while to come to fruition.
Ah, I assume you're better now.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't mean to bring down the room, but it was, I had a lot of time on my hands and treatment and all that stuff, way back then. And the idea came just out of nowhere, it seems. And then I named the character after my son after he was born a few years later, when I finally met up with my artist, Charles Tofield, who he's actually based in Maryland, in your neck of the woods. And, just took it from there. And then it was just, the process was extensive as far as just getting from those first pages, or even finding my artists, or actually artists plural,
right,
to get this thing off the ground.
Right. Cool. So is this your first book?
This is, I've had like some other like short stories come out here and there. But yeah, this is my first comic book. I found Marcosia, they're a small English publisher, that they were kind enough to say yes to it, like about a year ago. And then, it came out in January, and it's been really a nice surprise to how well it's been received. Like, we've even had a few great reviews, and I was just at a store in Los Angeles for Free Comic Book Day, and that was a lot of fun yesterday. I just was able to have a table with my book and meet a lot of kids.
Cool. So then to back it up even further a little bit, is writing something you've always wanted to do?
Oh yeah, yes. I've been writing for I don't know how long now. Prior to this, I'd done, like I said, a lot of short story work, and I wrote a lot of comedy sketches way back when I was first out here. I did a lot of like sketch writing and improv stuff, and now I've been teaching English out here for the last like 8 years or so, and just in my spare time, I just continue to keep on writing.
Cool. I'm kind of curious. How does one go from doing improv and writing sketches to teaching English?
Well, there's a little more school involved, and so I went back to grad school and got a master's in creative writing and literature, and then went back into this great school that I teach at called Harvard Westlake. It's a private school out here, and then that also certainly helps with just the inspiration for kind of other like spin-off stories that I've been working on for Playground and whatnot.
Cool.
Yeah, and then right now I just partnered up with a really great artist. His name's Tony Gregory. He's done some stuff for Vault Comics and some other guys, and he and I just finished up a little 8-page sample that we're going to send out to some people for something not as all ages at all. So it's more involving Hercules and in the modern day.
Ah.
Speaking of art, how did you find your artist for Playground? Like, what was the process of kind of locating them, and what kind of made you guys click?
Well, I went to that portfolio website, DeviantArt.org, I believe. They had like artists of all kinds, video game, animation, comic book, you name it. They all have their portfolios up there, and it was a long time of just kind of looking through people's work and seeing what styles would work, and then having a few test pages made. It took a while, but then I met Charles through there. We started Skype meeting for like every week, and then he was the right fit. Like, he did the first couple pages, and it looked great. And then we kept on going beyond doing just the 6-page like pitch. I just decided I wanted to see this all the way through, and years later, it was finally out, because then I also had this other amazing artist by the name of Shauna. She did the backup story about Hobby Squad, as well as she went back and did all the touching up of the coloring for the whole book and the letter.
Cool. Yeah, so years later, so how long of a process was it?
Boy, I'd say, 6 years.
Wow.
Because there were some bumps in the road as far as, like, other things in life, for Charles maybe slowing us down a little bit. And so, there were some delays, and then actually it was probably finished about a year ago, and then I was not getting it out there. And then finally I got it to Marcosia, and then it took off from there.
Right. But it was definitely sounds like it's a true labor of love.
Yes. Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, it was, and it was quite an education as far as, putting all the right people together and making sure, just all the way from pencils, inks, coloring, lettering, all that with the writing, and just making sure, like, you don't want to have one page too busy than another. I was overthinking certain things as far as, like, wouldn't it be great to do like an Alan Moore 9-panel grid? But, this is an all ages book, so you got to also know your audience. And, it was a learning experience for me and for Charles, just making this whole book come to life.
So that's actually, brings me to my next question too, because you just said it was a learning, experience. What made you decide to go with this format, to do, something that's more comic booky than just a simple, story with just like a kid's story?
I mean, I've been a comic book addict since I was, since I could read. I did have 6,000 comic books until they were stolen from my garage. That's another brutal story. But, I started like writing. I mean, I was writing scripts, like screenplays, short film stuff for a while out here, and then I wanted to really master the comic book form, and I read up on it a lot, and I've read them since I was 10. I tried a few other ideas and wrote some scripts for more adult audiences, and then when this thing hit me, I couldn't stop thinking about this, and this was the one that I just saw through to the finish line. And yeah, in the earliest draft, I had pages that were way unrealistic. I mean, what I've learned in this 6 years is you can't ask your artist to cram really 6 pages of ideas of sequential art into 1 page of 4 panels. And that's how I was starting out in my writing of this. I mean, it was a tremendous learning experience.
Cool. Go ahead, JD.
No, I'll say, what kind of stuff did you study? What did you read up on when you were, what was the learning experience?
Well, I mean, I read a lot of Scott McCloud. I read, DC. One of the first books I got years ago was How to Write the DC Way or something like that. Its name is. I read, Will Eisner's Sequential Art. I read some Brian Michael Bendis, writing book. I mean, I'm looking at a bunch of them right here. I read reading Grant Morrison's semi-biography or autobiography. I was just, reading anybody I could get my hands on. I mean, I'd say, yeah, McCloud and, the Eisner books were my biggest resources. Plus, yeah, and then I went online and I looked for Dark Horse had all these awesome templates that you could just use. And I was reading, I have friends out here that are this great guy, Adam Beechin, who's a super pro. He was kind enough to lend me or let me read some of his scripts. He's you may or may not have heard, he wrote a bunch of Batgirl issues that are amazing. He did DC's Countdown.
He had a run on Teen Titans about 10 years ago or so, didn't he? Yeah.
He, if anybody was a unofficial mentor, and he was kind enough to write the foreword in Playground for me too. He was a huge help. He looked at early scripts for me and was very blunt and said, you can't have this much going on in this one page or this one panel. You gotta stretch out the story with the art. And so, yeah, getting to see his work and then just finding scripts, of already made things online and just reading them and looking at the mechanics.
I have to say, hearing your story, I really like everything you have to say, because we've had some independent creators on the show who essentially look at comic books as a way to kind of break into TV or movies. I wrote a script and I couldn't sell it to get made into a TV show, so I just decided to make a comic because it's the same kind of visual medium. It sounds like you really worked with some people and read a lot of stuff. No, how do I make a comic book? Not how do I put a script to images.
No. I wrote this as a comic book first and foremost. And yeah, like I said, I live, bleed comic books. I'm still at my shop every Wednesday. I mean, if I have a passion beyond my family and whatnot, it's comics. I can't get enough of them. I mean, it's just, I made announcements about Free Comic Book Day to every friend and family member I knew, just to get more people to get out there and buy comics. I mean, I just think sequential art is the most valuable and underappreciated art form in the United States. If we were in Europe, it's a different story. But here, and I've been lucky enough to give some guest lectures at a school out here for animation and video game design called Gnomon on just comic books and the history of it. These comics are a true love.
Cool. That's really great to hear. Cause like I said, there's independent creators who are just this is really just for me to shop this around. And it's
No. I've heard, I know exactly what you're talking about. I wrote this screenplay, it didn't go anywhere, and now I'll just turn it into a comic book. No big deal. No, it was not that at all.
Right.
It's first and foremost, comic.
So then the question, Marvel, DC, Image, like, you know.
Oh man, like what you guys get to do would be a dream. I mean, just getting to. I get starved for getting to talk comics with anybody, because it's like you have those people at the shop, but you don't see them everywhere. So, right now, I guess I like DC and Marvel. If you're talking about me as a kid, I had my like pure only Marvel phase, and then I had like a little DC tryst. And then as I got older, I think maybe Jim Lee got me to be the first to notice like an artist. Like, whoa, I can just remember his like earliest like Spider-Man and Spawn stuff. I was like, before it was just the characters. Then it was like the artists. And then as I got older, it was the writers.
Right.
And in conjunction with the artists. So now, I love like Fraction. I love Remender. I love Schneider. I love King. Holy smokes, I can't get enough of Mr. Miracle. I was just rereading Sheriff of Babylon. And I'm also, I was when I was at the Pulp Fiction Comics in Culver City doing the signing yesterday, I'm trying to like not buy something every week, and I saw this omnibus of the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers, which I can't get out of my mind now. I need that. It's just, if I hear about something that I didn't know about, I want it like yesterday. Like, I just was reading about, I didn't take it seriously, but the Snagglepuss exit stage right or left.
Yes.
I read the Flintstone satire. I was like, that was amazing. I loved it. But then I was like, I don't know what this is going to be. And I hear it's like a Tennessee Williams kind of base. It sounds amazing. So I'm going to trade wait for that. But that's just added to the list today.
Yeah. Oh, I feel your pain.
Saga, I'm still digging. Lazarus, I like, but I don't know. I feel like I'm having a bit of the Lazarus fatigue. I loved it. Same with Hickman, East West.
Mm-hmm.
I just read the recent one of that, and I love it. It's just I want things to conclude a little bit. Black Science has been great. I was bummed that, Invincible's over. I think that was like one of the best non-DC Marvel superhero books ever created.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I love
that's
that
Mark
book.
Miller, right?
No, that's Robert Kirkman.
That's Kirkman.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
And Astro City I dig, and I just heard that Busiek is switching to trades with that. He's going to do whatever the most recent single issues are going to be it, and then they're going to just come out in volumes.
Right. Wait a minute. Who am I thinking of? Who's the Miller character that's like...
Miller's got some luck is great. Miller's got a Starlight, or not Star-Lord, Starlight, I believe he's...
But his Superman-esque character.
Wasn't that...
Oh, Superior.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and Nighthawk. Those guys weren't they all like brought into Marvel or?
No, Netflix bought the Millerverse. They're gonna.
Yeah, Miller's got his own deal. That's his own. It's more like Captain Marvel, like a Shazam Captain Marvel type of character.
Yeah,
that's right. No, I love Miller. He's great. And Jupiter's Legacy. Holy smokes! That was amazing. And why am I blanking on his artist there? He's like my favorite artist, All-Star Frank Whiteley.
Mm-hmm.
He can do no wrong in my life. I could like look at a page of his. I actually taught All-Star Superman to an 8th grade English class and realized that I really was doing it just for me because it was a little over their heads. But I went for it. But yeah, man, I've been just consuming comics like crazy. I can't, I keep trying to cut myself down a little bit every week, but it's hard.
Yeah, I get what you're saying too about, when you're a kid, when you're real little and you get into it, it's the characters. And then you start noticing, I guess especially, I'm assuming we're probably around the same age. I think a lot of us went through the same thing when you had the big Marvel artists in the 90s who then left to do Image. Like everyone was following the artists, and then it wasn't until I got older that I started appreciating the writers. you know, and you know, like Tom DeFalco, who wrote a huge majority of the Spider-Man comics that I initially read when I was a kid. That got me into this, you know. So it's
yeah, and now like they're just, I mean, when you get that perfect combo of people, like with Mr. Miracle, like King, and who's he doing that with? I'm so bad with names, like especially I'm like better with the writer names than the artist names, but who he's paired up with, it's just insane. It's like, you know, the Beatles have come together. It's so good.
Yes. Go ahead. What was that?
No, I was trying to look up who he's doing it with, and I'm
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we that was a fun tangent. So
what did you guys read this past week?
Oh God, see, the problem is at this point, for me, the only time I have to get to read, I've been trying to read books that I'm reviewing for the website. So, so like I unfortunately had just put a review up for a book called Project Savior, issue 1, and it was a difficult review to write. Let me just
oh boy,
I'll just put it that way. And then I've been reading a bunch of Zenescope stuff, like the Grimm Fairy Tales.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, no, I mean, when I get a chance, I'm probably going to pick up a couple trades. I need to get caught up, especially on some of the DC stuff that's coming out right now, because everyone's raving about what is it, the Batman White Knight and Metal.
Sean Murphy. Holy smokes!
Yeah. So definitely when those are in trades, I'm definitely going to pick those up.
Oh yeah, White Knight will not disappoint you. I mean, just the art alone is insane.
How about you, JD?
I am in writing mode right now, so my free time goes into writing.
Yeah. Yep.
Horror, right?
Right, a little bit of horror, a little bit of crime stuff. So I got a novel right now I'm trying to finish.
Nice. Well, that's great. I just saw that, I think you guys joked about it at the top of this. I saw, the silent movie. What is it called?
The Quiet Place.
The Quiet Place.
Quiet Place.
Did you guys see it? Can I ask a question about it?
Oh, I haven't seen it. I just
nor have I, because like I said, I've been in writing mode, so I haven't done. The only movie I've seen recently is Avengers.
All right, well, I did just finally see Avengers, and I was very happy with it.
So wait, it took you over a week to see it?
I don't like the crowds.
Okay.
I mean, I like when it's a little mellower in the theater. I'm not like a midnight, like, opening night kind of guy. But so it was hard to have like the blackout of not getting anything spoiled.
Right.
I knew some people died, and then I just didn't know who. And I thought my prediction was it was going to be Hawkeye, but he wasn't even in it.
Nah, he was busy.
Yeah, raising that family in Montana.
Raising the family in Montana and sharpening his arrows.
Yeah. I guess Ant-Man was busy like dating the Wasp.
Apparently. I think his absence will probably be better explained in the movie. I think that has something to do with what's going to happen now in the aftermath as well. But yeah, so I'm kind of curious then, since you saw it a week later, what was the audience reaction?
Well, it was a small crowd. It was like 10 people. So it was my son and I left very happy, and he just kept saying, "I told you people were going to die," because he heard it about that. So he was just smug about knowing that ahead of me. But yes, it wasn't like that big audience reaction. But I wanted to like turn around and see it again. It was just, I was very happy with how good it was. I didn't, the last couple of other Marvel movies were good, but nothing blew me away.
Right. They did it like we said in our review last week. I mean, I think they did a great job with doing it, and you're shoving, what was it, 25, 30 characters, heroes into a movie and making it work. Like, they did a great job with that. My biggest complaint, JD, doesn't really agree with this, but it's really just a setup movie. To me, it feels like half a movie, because we all know. Yeah, I mean, we've been reading, you've been reading comics as long as we have. You know that this is all set up for them saving the day in the next one, Well,
wasn't this just like Empire Strikes Back?
To a point,
It was similar. It was similar. And I'll still say it was Thanos' movie, and Thanos had the hero journey, and Thanos won. So, complete story.
I see. No, you're right about that. And I kept thinking if that was some other actor, like Brolin is just so good that I totally was into this giant purple CGI guy.
Yeah, Brolin was awesome.
Yeah, man, and now we're going to get to see him as Cable.
How many jokes about him being Thanos and Cable in Deadpool 2?
Putting the over-under on 5.
Oh, 5?
I was going to say 3.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Somewhere like 3 or 4.
The other thing that movie made me realize, or cement, not that this is like a news flash, is why can't DC get their act together? I mean, I just rented Justice League because I had no desire to see that in the theater, and man, it was just, it had some moments, but it wasn't anything of what it could have been.
So that topic literally comes up once a show for the last 6 months. Like, I swear we hit up on that at least one time every episode. Like, it is so, it just shows you how real it is. Because it keeps coming up. Everybody who's on the show mentions it. Somehow our conversations always tend to wind back up there. It's
right.
Crazy.
And the argument of, well, they're taking a more serious and dark approach, Exactly. It's like, well, this was a much darker movie for the MCU, and they still pulled it off brilliantly compared to Batman v Superman or Justice League. It's made over $1 billion in 9 days.
It's insane. No,
that's pretty good.
I think DC needs to reset and go extreme primary colors, meaning they need to go super pure, ideal versions of all these characters. Go for an exaggerated kind of type of all of these of the guys. I think is the way, because that's who they are. If you make them as heroic and pure as they are, or they were in the Silver Age, that's gonna be refreshing and new.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we made the argument a long time ago before Batman v Superman came out with you start out with a dark Superman in Man of Steel, and then you bring Batman in. Where do you go from there? They set the wrong tone from the beginning, and they just had to continue down that path. But, yeah.
I repeat. That's where I'm
Can
at.
We
with that now.
quote you on that?
Yes. Make sure you spell right.
Oh man. Easy.
If they were going to start over, how would I get what you're saying, bring in the Silver Age versions of some of the characters, but how do you really kick off a DC universe? Do you start with Superman? Do you start with Batman?
Well, I think, well, first of all, I am so done with both Marvel and DC origin movies. I don't want another origin. I can't sit through another origin.
Mm-hmm.
So I would want to jump into the middle of just life for the Justice League, or go for the Justice League International of the late 90s with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. I mean, just give us a little slapsticky but well done Justice League.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And now, but is it like Max Lord, or that's not his name? Isn't he like a supervillain these days? He like betrayed them,
right?
As law, I don't know where he's at now. It was 10, 15 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, maybe more. Yeah, I know. Well, I did just read like the free DC, like kind of the 25-cent comic from last week. Starro's on the Justice League now.
Wait,
I'm so far behind. Really?
Yeah. No, go pick up the 25-cent one from last week. It had a little mini Scott Snyder story at the beginning of the Joker waiting patiently for his invite to Batman and Catwoman's wedding at this terrified like suburban guy's house. And, in the end, he just kills the guy, and there was never going to be an invite from Batman, obviously. He just was there to torment this guy.
I gotta read that.
It was awesome. Playman was really good.
That sounds like a typical Joker story.
Oh yeah, it was great. But yeah, it had Starro in there, like helping out with one of the new. There's like 5 different Justice League groups in this little teaser.
Cool. I'll check that out too. How about okay? You said primary color, something that maybe looks like it's going to be a little happier just from the set pictures, but who knows? We got Shazam coming out.
Yes, that I am cautiously optimistic about.
All right, cool. I mean,
that
yeah. I mean, I think the casting is great.
Oh yeah, and they're having the whole Batson family, right? I mean, the whole Marvel family.
That's the rumor. I mean, I don't know what's been confirmed or not.
That could work wonderfully. Yes. I wonder if at the end of the next Infinity movie, in like the post credits, they're going to show like the Fantastic Four.
I don't think they can yet. Like they were just talking about how the Fox, just because they have the rights to the Fox movies doesn't mean they can just start making them quite yet. Like, I think there's a little more legal stuff they have to jump through.
Okay.
That could be a swerve though. They could just be saying that and throw something else out. I don't know. That's possible.
Right.
It's great to see what gives me hope for for DC, even though this is through Marvel, is now that Spider-Man is someone they can play with, he's being done right.
Yeah, I'll agree to that.
Garfield, I mean, nothing against him as an actor. He's a great actor, but those Spider-Man movies just didn't. Holland he is that young Peter Parker, and his dynamic with Tony Stark, I mean, it just works.
Right. No, I agree. And even though I think Garfield enjoyed the character, like Holland seems like he's that exuberant teenager that really loves being a superhero. Like, that's Spider-Man,
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And hey, anytime Marissa Tomei wants to be Aunt May, I'm okay with it.
Yes. The hot aunt syndrome.
He's a heck of an Aunt May.
Yeah. Still thought that was an odd choice, but hey, it works.
Oh yeah, no, it works for me. When forgive the shameless self-promoting, but the Ontario Comic-Con in 2 weeks, I'm getting to speak I'm on a panel on All Ages Comics. Cool. Ontario, not Canada, Ontario, California. It's this year they're getting bigger every year. It's like last year was like just a 1-day deal, but this year it's 2-day. The Ontario Comic-Con Revolution.
Cool. Is it a small, mid-sized, large con? Like, how would you describe it?
I mean, considering last year was just 1 day, I'd say you'd call it a smaller one, but they have a lot of really great names coming this year. So I think they're getting bigger. And, Ontario's like kind of like not Central California, but it's, it's a whole other audience that isn't coming down to like San Diego or even to WonderCon down in Anaheim, which I did make it to, WonderCon is great. If you ever have one to come out to out here, that's a good one.
So on the topic of like all ages books, what do you think about, like, how are you trying to market your book so it gets in the right hands? Like, I think I get an idea of how I can reach horror fans and stuff like that, but how would you reach out to kids and get kids reading your books? Like, what are you doing? What's kind of working for you? What it isn't working for you?
Excellent question. I just, like, in Los Angeles, the public libraries, I just made kind of a application to get to do like kind of comic book workshops. So, that's not directly involved with my book at all, but if I get that opportunity, then, it would be an indirect way of kind of getting the word out on it. And, as well as just, I'm realizing more and more that, it's a good thing as far as being like what my target audience is, and that it's not just a single issue. It's it is like a trade paperback that I don't have to only consider comic book stores, but like bookstores with children's sections. I'm starting to get it in there to a few places. And, I'm trying to get like even more opportunities to just do like my little kind of comic book workshop with kids at different places. So that's start to it.
This is something that I get really passionate about talking about. So I kind of wanted to steer into this. We talked earlier about how all these kids today have cell phones in their hands, and we kind of lamented it a little bit. I'm wondering, do you see the opportunity to get your work across to these kids who are holding a cell phone in your hands? And have you done much thought with digital? And if so, kind of where are you on that?
Well, it is available on Comixology. So I don't know if that, but I think your question's a bigger one. I totally agree. Like, there's like me, like being like the old school resistant to like everybody in screens, but I'm also realistic, and I understand that's the reality we're in. Like, the world is this is where we're at. So no, I've been thinking a lot about that recently. Like, I need to like be a lot more kind of present with how to kind of promote this digitally beyond like, yes, it's available to download, but as far as just getting to where kids are, as far as Snapchat, or well, not even that anymore, but maybe Instagram, or probably something I haven't even heard of yet. Just there, it's really about kind of trying to think ahead and see where they're looking. But it's also the age range, though, for mine is a little younger than your average, I think, cell phone owning kid. I mean, I still maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's still like your average, like, 7 to 10-year-old. Maybe some of them, or more of them, have them than I realize. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get it out and about to them more. But I also think, though, it is through the parents. Right. I mean, that's why I think parents, wanting, like, just when I was at the shop for Free Comic Book Day yesterday at my little table, parents were like, they were refreshed to hear, like, oh yeah, I haven't thought about like Red Rover and ages. And, I can, my kid's going to ask me what that is. And, your book explains it, but now I can explain it. But yeah, I don't know how often little Rex is playing Red Light, Green Light, or Mother May I. So it is, I think, kind of a combination of trying to like get the word out. Well, the local PTA, I think they're going to have me come in and talk to the school. Like, so talking at schools is I think my number one target at the moment. Like, granted, that's local. That's just, obviously I'm not like trying to get across the country, but a huge influence to me. And I was lucky enough to get him to come speak at my school 2 years ago now, was Gene Luen Yang. Have you guys heard of him?
Yeah, he had American-born Chinese, right?
Yes, which we teach and everything. And so he is like an inspiration. I mean, that guy, now he's writing the Chinese Superman for DC, but he's also still doing plenty of his own work for Second and other publishers. And one of his bigger hits is Secret Coders, and that one is like more like science driven more than anything. So I'm, it's just getting that educational slant on a book. Like my book has a couple of activity pages at the end of it, and I've noticed like bookstores that I talk to, when they hear that, they kind of perk up. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, are you familiar with Comics Launch?
Comics Watch?
Comics Launch. Launch.
Yeah. I have heard of them, but I don't know.
Well, it's a buddy of mine who kind of changed my life. It's the whole reason I kind of got hooked up with this podcast is through the study I did with Comics Launch. They have a great podcast, and just this past week, my buddy Tyler James did a show on kind of what's working for promoting comics in 2018, and it's about an hour-long podcast. And there's some really cool things that I heard this week, and I just want to, I'm going to give my boy some love and at the same time try to help another fellow creator out. I think you should try to give that a listen because there's some really cool ideas to help grow in the digital space. And if I always try to do this to recommend it to everybody who's a comic creator, is getting involved in Comics Launch and just meeting other creators. I've learned a ton about promoting my own stuff, and I don't know where I'd be without learning from this. So I'd highly recommend that. Specifically this past week's episode of the Comics Launch podcast. I think you should check it out, man.
It is awesome that you just brought up Tyler James. He's somebody that was like also a big help to me early on with it.
He's the man.
I literally had a couple beers and wings with him in Newburyport, Massachusetts, like 3 or 4 years ago, bending his ear on this, and I met him just online, and at that time, my parents lived in Newburyport, and he's there, and he was nice enough to just meet me randomly for and just talk. Tyler's awesome.
He's one of the most genuinely nice people I've met in this business, and he just has the heart of a teacher, and he'll go out of his way to give people advice and to help kind of help steer their careers in the right direction. I mean, I think he's one of the best as far as like a creative mind, as far as a business mind goes.
Yep.
True independent voices in comics. He's got his own business and he does his own thing. He has no interest in big two stuff. But I mean, if you had a chance to listen to his show, you know what he's got. Like I can't tell you the cool stuff I've learned from him just over the past couple of years.
No, I'm glad you're reminding me. I definitely will. I loved. I've read more than a few issues of Oxymoron. He's got some great stuff. And what was that other one? I read one he did about the heist in Vegas.
Scam.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a good thing going on. His education programs too with Comics Launch and his stuff with today I signed up to learn about I can't pronounce it. The new email laws that are going on in the UK and in the EU. GDPR. God, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. But I mean, like, it's a great way to stay ahead of kind of what's going on in the business side of comics. This shows like this are awesome for talking with creators and getting in their head. But I mean, like, as far as like business podcasts go or business stuff, I mean, I know we got people out there that are in the business listening. I can't recommend that stuff enough.
Oh, I definitely will. I'm glad you reminded me of him. He's listening. Hello, Tyler. Yeah. I am a big fan. He's awesome.
Yeah, JD, I know. He's a better businessman, a better podcaster.
No, not that at all. Different. That's what the beauty part about podcasting is. There's no competition going on. Like, everyone's doing their own thing and trying to grow. Like, that's what's awesome about this. It's not that old school 80s, 90s mentality of, everyone is the competition. Podcasting is it's like comics, like independent comics. There is no competition. There is enough wealth to go around. And everybody, rising tide, how does that go? A rising tide, something about all ships being higher when the water's higher. So it's one of those deals.
Yes.
I completely forgot how that cliche went.
Rising tide raises all ships.
I know, but I'm going to.
Thank you, John. Or Dave. John's not here and I miss him greatly.
Don't let him hear you say that. Oh my goodness.
There's not enough smarts on this show, and I can't remember. Like, I feel like it's missing from my life. Like,
well, he never listens to the show, so he'll never hear you say that.
It's probably better that way.
Well, yeah, no, I definitely, I listen to multiple fantasy football podcasts. So that's another story. Which I should I'm going to try to wean myself of my leagues to get down to one this fall.
Yeah, I listen to multiple pro wrestling podcasts. We've all got we've all got different things that we lean into that we probably shouldn't.
Well, I know you're a busy person, but I hope you are gonna. If you haven't, you are going to watch Andre the Giant.
I have watched it. I put it on the other day when I was getting some website work done, like stuff didn't require too much attention. I went to school for documentary filmmaking, so I got a huge like documentary passion, and I loved it. It was absolutely awesome.
Oh, it brought me back, man. I mean, he's amazing. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it too. So good. Then beyond the mat, I mean, yeah, I'm not a current follower of wrestling, but I definitely appreciate it. And I was a huge guy in the, 80s with Iron Sheik, Superfly, Jimmy Snuka, Hillbilly Jim, JYD. I mean, I was all about it.
The classics.
That's right. Rowdy Roddy Piper. I mean, and then his little, foray into films of the movie They, or was it Them?
They Live.
They Live. Man, I want those glasses so I can really see what people are.
Yeah. Do you really want to know?
I think I'd be. I don't think I'd be surprised in most cases.
I don't know. I'm a firm believer in ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. I think you're right. That's why we can't.
No. You always hear. The Freedom to Information Act and wanting to know everything that's going on and all. Do you really want to? No, I don't want to know. I can sleep better at night if I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. You don't want to know how the bacon gets made. Or is it the sausage? Sausage.
It's all pork. It's all pork to me. Yes. Yeah. No, I'm more concerned with, set picks for the Avengers 4 being leaked and who's.
Now, are you guys going to go a second time in the theater?
I already have.
What about Deadpool 2?
I will be there, definitely on Saturday. First in line.
Is that this weekend?
Yes. No. Yeah, this week.
Next week, isn't it? Is it this week?
Yeah, it's 2 weeks after Infinity War? Yeah.
Wow, that's okay. Cool. And then we have Solo.
Yes.
Jeez.
Then Ant-Man and the Wasp.
All right.
I got to figure out this Deadpool 2 thing. We got to review it for the show. May 18th comes out. We got some time.
We got some time. Okay, 2 weeks.
So, 2 weeks. Okay,
all right.
Oh yeah, it's the same weekend as Wizard World Philly. That reminds.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You guys hitting that?
Well, that's the interesting thing. I am. We actually got press passes. John and I got them for this year. I would have one for JD, but he's in Chicago, and unless I'm paying for his flight and hotel, he's not coming out.
If you're willing to do that, I will. I can make that work.
Yeah, as soon as I get paid to do this podcast, I'll look into it.
Put it on my tab.
But then the funny thing is that I'm friends with Greg Horn, cover artist for Marvel, and he used to do Wizard World Philly all the time. He hasn't done it for the last 2 years, and I would help him out at the shows, and I also help him out at New York Comic Con. So I'm thinking, okay, he's not going to do it this year. I can go, Saturday during the day, and then at night go see the movie. And he texts me today, and he's like, "Oh, can you help me out this year in Wizard World Philly?" So I have to figure out when I can see the movie now.
Oh boy, a lot to pack.
Yeah, I know. It's tough having friends like him. I mean, sorry, Greg. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's it is what it is. But I definitely will do everything in my power to see it this weekend or next weekend so we can review it right away for the show, because I love the first one.
Me too. And this will be the end of T.J. Miller's appearances due to his personal life.
Yes, I would.
Yeah, he done.
I would think so.
Oh, they said, I read it recently. He's done. This is it. No, he won't be. At least I know for a fact he's not in X-Force.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and we'll have to see. Again, we were talking earlier about the merger with Fox, and we'll have to see where this all goes to down that road. Like, I understand there's still legal issues, but I don't know if you guys saw the article. They have announced that the Phoenix Saga will be the last X-Men movie released by Fox.
Oh, wow. I did not see that.
Yeah, they have officially announced that will be the last of the X-Men movies. Obviously I don't know if they're counting Deadpool in there, but by the time we're starting to talk about Deadpool 3, I think the merger will definitely have gone through at that point. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it, because it's Deadpool and Disney.
Yeah. They don't really dabble in the R market much.
Yeah, but they have wings of Disney has, for a long time had businesses like other studios under their umbrella that does. Miramax used to do that. Touchstone in the 80s used to do that. So I imagine they could. The question is, will they? And if they do, are they going to try to reinvent, or are they just going to just keep the Ryan Reynolds thing going? I don't know. Like Feige kind of likes to do his Feige thing.
Right. That's another question too. Like, are they going to like you were just saying, Adam? We don't like origin stories again. Like, we're getting sick of them. So, are they going to relaunch the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, or are they just going to? No, here they are and fold them in.
I hope they fold them. I mean, I feel like that would be the smart play with the Fantastic Four. Just introduce them in the end of a movie, and then have like a quasi origin, where saw them with the Avengers or Spider-Man or whatever, and then we're getting to know them, but they've already been doing their thing for a little bit. We don't need to see them get bombarded by cosmic rays.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was Kevin Smith that said the only way that Avengers could have been working them better is with that last pager scene. When instead of seeing the Captain Marvel symbol, you saw the Thor.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
I had to go. Yeah, that would have been
Which
really cool.
does make me wonder: is there a copy on the cutting room floor that does have that?
No, I don't think so. Only because they've really invested in the Captain Marvel movie. It's going to come out next year, and they've kind of that ball has been rolling for. Oh
no, I agree. But if you're somebody there, you're just kind of just for fun, let's do one with the Fantastic Four symbol. Let's do one with an X,
I'm sure those are floating around somewhere, because that would not be hard to do.
Right.
Or the bat symbol.
Yeah, very easy to do.
That's Nick Fury calling Batman for the to go against Thanos. I would pay to see that.
That would work. I mean, he's going up against Darkseid, so.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. He is. Yeah. Oh, that movie. God, no. And I can't believe they're making a second Suicide Squad. Who liked the first one?
It's not going to happen.
It is. I thought it was.
They announced a lot of movies that never get made.
All right.
They're so like up in the air now with stuff because of the disaster that was Justice League. I think the only one that we know for sure we're going to get is Wonder Woman 2. I mean, everything is so kind of, because we talked about this on the show too, where it's just everything's kind of in pause. There's another shakeup at Warner, so they literally don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's too bad. I mean, and Jeff Johns is such an amazing writer, and isn't he kind of like their like the kind of top of the food chain for advising on all, like the architect?
I thought that too, but then Jeff Johns and I think it was Jeff Johns, him and Ben Affleck had written a script for the solo Batman movie, and Warner Brothers rejected it.
Huh,
you know, so it's like, well, then what do you want? You know, so yeah.
That's why Ben got that big tattoo, because he was sad about that.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that takes a lot of makeup to cover up as well.
A lot of body makeup. Yep.
So yeah, we'll have to wait and see with those guys. But yeah, I'm excited about the concept of the merger, and I do think, you know, it's perfect timing also in the sense, and maybe that's all by design, you know, but with them ending this phase of the Avengers, you know, and we're going to have at least probably one or two characters die, and then a couple go into retirement after this. You know, they're going to give us a whole new crop of heroes going forward. And, like, yes, they have ones lined up. We've got Spider-Man now. We've got Black Panther. But, you know, just the idea of infusing now one or two X-Men and the Fantastic Four. How long can they keep this going, guys?
My prediction, I've said this before, because Disney owns both properties now, is I won't be surprised that in our lifetime we see, like, Star-Lord meet a Jedi.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, look, Wreck-It Ralph is like me. There's a mashup of every, like, superheroes and Disney princesses and Star Wars characters are all hanging out.
Yes, but that.
So I know that's. Hear me out. So that's happening now. Why? I mean, Disney owns both properties. It's a money-making machine. I could see somebody like 10 years from now saying, yeah, what the hell? Let's have the Guardians of the Galaxy go to Endor.
Boy, I don't want to see that.
That would be the true jump the shark moment for the franchise.
Well, have you ever seen the movie Idiocracy?
Yes.
It's all coming true.
Oh, yes. That is true.
So, I mean, come on. I mean, you don't want to see it, but it's going to happen.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, the people who...
You know who's coming out of retirement? I just read, Rick Moranis is going to reprise his role as Dark Helmet on the TV show The Goldbergs.
Oh. Okay.
So that's just my evidence.
Yes.
Theory.
You know, though, it's the people who would want to see the Star Wars Marvel crossover and wouldn't be bothered by it are the same people who walked out of Infinity War thinking they just killed off Black Panther and Spider-Man. I mean,
that's true.
That's the majority audience.
I know. That's the sad part.
We are the minority. We are the vast minority.
It's funny. It kind of goes back to something that I had just posted on our website this past weekend. Dan Noakes, who's a independent comic book creator, he's kind of a staple at the Great Philly Comic-Con. He's been on the show. We've talked to him a few times. He has this thing where, like, when he talks to people at conventions, you know, he's getting more and more. You know, when people say no, also adding in there, I don't read comics. You know, it used to be I'm not into superheroes. Now it's I don't read comics, and he's like, these are people that are dressed up sometimes.
I think the cosplay is superseding the comic book fan.
Right. So it's kind of like my take on it is, why are you coming to a convention or a comic book culture if you're not into comic books? You know, and it's the growing of it becoming a pop culture thing as opposed to a comic book thing, and eventually the bubble bursts on that, because whatever the next big thing in pop culture to come out is, people stop going to those movies, and hopefully it'll burst soon.
It's a big bubble.
I don't know. Do you want it to burst? I mean, like, if people, I think it's comic book shows are more than comics. We say it's cultural things. Like, isn't this a great way to spread our culture? And even if people don't get into the books as much as they used to, if they know the properties and enjoy them. I mean, I've got a 2-year-old that won't stop talking about Infinity War, and he just talks about comics all the time. He's never read a comic. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people like that just know these things tangentially. And isn't that a good thing? Don't we want that? Don't we want more people to get into what we're doing? Sure, they're not going to be as hardcore as the hardcores, but isn't having people into what we're doing
it's not
better than having people not care?
There's a difference between I appreciate Superman or I appreciate Spider-Man, I like the movies, and I love comic books, right? And to me, especially like the Great Philly Comic Con, it's a smaller con, and it's more about the comic books. It's one where you still, when you walk in, Artist Alley is right there when you walk in. It's not in the back behind everything. Like, so people have to pass through Artist Alley to go back to where the celebrities are, you know? And like, the whole thing is having more people doesn't help people like Adam, doesn't help people like Dan, and even you, JD, who are independent creators, and you're trying to sell your book. And if you're at a convention trying to sell your book,
absolutely, David, absolutely helps. You want to get your stuff in front of as many eyes as possible. The more people you have a chance to present yourself to, the better. Like, maybe they're not as focused, but I mean, like, you want as many eyes as possible. And if 100 walk by you, that's fine. That means that's 100 people that aren't into your stuff, that you can focus on the people that are. But if you find 10 people that are willing to buy your stuff, you have a fan that can support your work for the next 10, 12, 20 years, depending if you keep working. We want more people coming to these things, not less. Because it's more opportunity for us to show what we do. Like, that's what it's about. I mean, like, as a creator, you should want to have 1 million people at a con. That's 1 million people that have a chance to see what you're doing, and you have to stand out and you have to compete. But you want that. You want that big pool. And if you can get their attention, awesome. You have a good chance making a sale. And if you can't, try again. But you got a much better chance selling to 1,000 people than you do to 1.
All right. I'll give you that one. 1 point, JD.
I mean,
right. From a pure marketing standpoint, I get that. Yeah.
I guess the counter, not really counter to that, because I agree with you. Like, you want more eyes and bodies. A film director who's not in the superhero world, an indie guy, just recently said, "Yeah, I'd love to have all these different, people in my next movie, but they're all like committed for the next 5 years to all these Marvel and DC properties." Like,
but that's good for them. They're making money.
Right. But there was this New Yorker article more than a few years ago that argued movies like Forrest Gump would not be made today because they wouldn't be given the opportunity because they're not that like franchise property. Like movies like story-driven movies from like the late 90s, even like very early 2000, before like the first X-Men movie. Like there's like this, take any sense of them.
So I'm so glad you mentioned Forrest Gump. Let's really look at what Forrest Gump was. Like, this is just fascinating that he chose that one as an example. Forrest Gump in 1994 had the world's biggest star, one of the world's most powerful directors, who was, mentored by the world's most powerful director. And I mean, it was a studio machine movie that in 1994 got all the attention and won all the awards.
Yep.
25 years later, of the big movies that came out that year, it's the least remembered. Like, it beat Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption for the Oscar. And I mean, people like Shawshank Redemption, in retrospect, is largely praised as one of the best films ever made in a lot of AFIs. Yeah, and Pulp Fiction launched Quentin Tarantino's career. Like, with that particular example, I'll say that Forrest Gump was the Avengers of 1994 because that's what they wanted. They wanted those big movie star driven films. Because that's what was selling in 1994.
No, I guess what I'm saying to you is that if that movie didn't happen then, it was came out like it was pitched last week. Tom Hanks, that young age, was like, oh no, I'm going to go do this Avengers movie. I'm going to be Nick Fury, or I'm going to be whatever. I'm not going to be Forrest Gump because that has no staying power.
Well, see, I think that a lot of the thing with these superhero movies is the actors get bored. Actors get bored playing movies. And a lot of these guys from the Avengers want to do something else. So I do think, and that movie came from a successful book. So that actually was based on a property.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, that's why I do think that the parallel, I think there's a crazy parallel with this, is I do think that was a proven property. It was a best-selling book. It was, they did their own thing with it. I mean, that's why that movie would have happened. I do think a movie like that happens. Do I think movies like Pulp Fiction maybe don't happen in this environment? Maybe not, but there's the environment is different. Like, the studios don't pack money into those, character-driven films, but there's a ton of great stuff being done, in places like Netflix and
the
digital space.
Yeah, you're right.
I think
right. The avenue is from the streaming guys are making a lot of the indie movies now.
Yeah, I mean, it's even just I don't even know if you call them indies, but I think you just get more of that, the stuff that's not necessarily a blockbuster.
Right.
I just think the business is different. Yeah. That's all.
I think the argument also is those movies are still being made. They're just not getting as much attention. Again, they don't have the marketing machine behind them like Avengers and Justice League and what have you, where two great examples that recently come out. Now, granted, both horror movies, but are different artsy type movies. Is A Quiet Place, which we talked about earlier, and Get Out. They are they're movies that you could argue, oh, no one's making movies like that, but they did.
That's good. You're right.
Those movies they're like throwbacks to like 70s style horror movies. Those things are akin to The Omen or The Exorcist. These strange properties that don't have any footing that you can then horror that just captures zeitgeist. In the early mid 70s, you had that, and you're kind of getting that now again. Where it's different than what's going on in the rest of Hollywood, and that's pretty cool. And I get excited. We talked about this before, but I like that these quirky horror films are becoming more mainstream.
Right.
I just saw the trailer for Toni Collette's movie Hereditary.
That looks so cool.
Oh, it looks great. That's the next big one. I mean, you're right. No, I will. Maybe I'll retract my Forrest Gump statement to some degree.
Yeah, you can't beat JD.
Could I replace?
I like that. I want a T-shirt that says that.
But maybe if I said Steel Magnolias, I'd win.
Maybe. I don't know.
Cool. All right. So it's actually we're a little over an hour at this point. So the quick question for our audience is, Adam, where can people find you and your stuff online?
Oh, that is a good question. So I mean, right now, primary place is markposia.com. That's where you can find Playground, as well as just if you go to Amazon, you type in Playground Attack of the Gurglebots, it'll come up. Barnes and Noble online and Comixology. Those are all the places. And then as far as following me and whatnot, I mean, I'm on my Twitter handle is AdamRose74, and I've been posting my random news and events for Playground and just getting the word out that way. So I guess those are the big ways right now. I don't have my own. I have Playground does have a Facebook page.
Cool. And So the question that we normally like to wrap up on, we kind of talked about different avenues for this today, and that is, how do you measure success?
Wow. I measure it with a sense of just accomplishment. I think if that makes sense, I measure it by feeling like if I had a couple hours of just writing in a day, that is success, because even if it's pages that never see the light of day, writing for me, it's what I'm passionate about, and therefore it's success if I get to do it.
Cool. I like that.
I love that answer.
It's so funny. I'm not trying to hijack your answer, but every once in a while I watch Dr. Phil with my wife because she tapes it and then doesn't watch it till I get home a lot of times.
Okay, yeah, I want to see.
Okay, so they in the recent episode that I watched with my wife, because she said she specifically saved this one to watch with me. It was this, Beverly Hills Hollywood family, the mother and daughter, and the daughter was super spoiled. Where like she wanted a Mercedes for her 16th birthday, like a specific SUV, Mercedes SUV and stuff, and she couldn't live without it, blah blah. But basically, Dr. Phil's point through the whole thing was like, when you spoil your kid, and they don't accomplish something for themselves, that just makes you feel good in that moment. You're not helping your kid, but when your kid goes out and does something, and they accomplish something, then they feel good about themselves, and they're putting, it's building their self-esteem and their self-worth, so like, yes, like when you it just reminded me of that, just feeling accomplished at like, hey, I created this book and it's awesome. Like, yeah, that's a great measure for success.
Seeing something through.
I need to do that more often.
Same here.
Cool. All right.
Well, guys, thank you guys enough for having me. And man, if you ever, you need like a guest on just to talk comics, or just talk comics even off on, I mean, this has been a real pleasure. It means a lot to just get to talk to you guys.
Cool. So on that note, boys and girls, as always, thanks for listening, and don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.